Hey there, I'm Lochan, and I'm stepping into a story that's anything but ordinary. At 18, I've got a lot on my plate, especially with my twin brother. Well, he's not exactly my brother. He's my cousin, adopted at birth due to his mom's struggles with addiction. Because of that, he's got some serious learning challenges. Think math and reading skills of someone much younger. Summer school? Yeah, he's practically a regular. But here's the kicker. He's not exactly the friendliest guy to me. Can't blame him, I guess. But truth be told, once I'm out of here, I'm out of here. And tutoring him? That's a hard pass from me. My parents have discovered a tutoring program that specializes in learning impairments and plan to give it a chance. The problem is that my father was laid off owing to the global crisis, and only my older sister and I work, so they only have a small amount of money to cover it. They do, however, feel compelled to assist my brother in obtaining the services he needs. My dad sat us down earlier this week. They informed us that it had reached to the point where my brother might be kept back. He desperately needs tutoring, and because we are his older siblings and they are not working, my sister and I will cover some of the costs. We instantly opposed this. My sister argued they had no right to do so, and I said that my brother was not my duty. Nonetheless, they shut us down and told us that we were a family and that families supported one another. I realized that because they have shared ownership of my current bank account, they can withdraw monies without my knowledge. I would have no recourse. So I opened a new account with a different bank and planned a wire transfer. Later that night, the transfer went through. Today, my parents received a notification and began calling me about it. I told them it was my hard-earned money and I couldn't risk having it garnished. Still, they raged at me, telling me that I needed to help my brother, that they had tried for so long to help him, and that not standing up for him was a low point for me. Now I'm feeling wrong about this. I don't want to see my brother suffer, but I also don't want them to touch my money. Not the stupid. If your parents want to help him, they should stop talking and begin working. You have every right to safeguard your finances and your future. Suppose OP and his sister both secured jobs at a high school with little training. Mom and dad may get their buttocks out and pound the pavement till they find work. But given their sense of entitlement, I'm betting they think minimum wage employment is beneath them. Hey, since dad was laid off and now has spare time, he should tutor the youngster personally rather than resorting to thievery. As soon as you say it's your money and you're 18, you're no idiot. You are not his parent, and paying for tutoring and other expenses is something that parents do. It appears that they did not inquire, but instead informed you that you would be handing them the money. You are the moron. Your brother is not your or your sister's responsibility, and you are perfectly entitled to manage your bank account and money. Assume you and your sister are both adults, earning your own money while living for free with your parents. In that situation, they have every right to push you out and profit from renting out those rooms to pay for your brother's tuition. They didn't do that due to your family. I'll have to disagree here. The parents chose to adopt, and it does not operate that way. Sure, they can kick them out, but try renting out a room in a shared house with a young child who frequently misbehaves. Most people would decline that offer. Their parents want them to pay for their lifestyle and their brother's education because neither of their parents works. So it's only a one-time expense once they get back on their feet. OP, if you live in the United States, your brother is eligible for free supplementary assistance from the school system. He would require a 504 or IEP owing to his medical impairment. The school would then assist in setting up needed support and accommodations. Assume their parents have obtained a diagnosis for him. In those circumstances, he is likely eligible for additional state-provided support services and funding. Traditional tutoring may not benefit your brother. He needs specialized instruction due to his condition. Yes, not an idiot at all. Your parents are attempting to force parentalization. Your sibling is not your responsibility to raise or assist with in any manner. You did the right thing by isolating your finances from that account. Ensure that your direct deposit is received in your new account. I urge that you and your sister move out as soon as possible and limit your contact with your parents. Otherwise, they will try to trick you out of money. I have a corgi named Lila. She is completely healthy and satisfied with the dog food I have always bought her. My boyfriend did it for me since I needed to leave on a week-long business trip to Dubai. The vacation was extended by 3 days as a result of airplane delays and cancellations caused by a severe storm. Keep in mind that I buy a 50-pound bag of dog food that lasts nearly a month. This bag of food costs me around $40, depending on which store I go to. It's a vet-recommended brand, not a low-cost off-brand. and the only reason I can get it so inexpensively is because her groomers offer it. When I went home, I observed that my dog had gained some weight, but not enough to be concerned about, and her belly was certainly pudgier. When I came to my kitchen, I found that her 50-pound bag of food was still untouched, and next to it was a 25-pound bag of organic steak and chicken or something, with a $79.99 price tag still attached. He bought it with the money I left for her in case of an emergency. We have porcupines in my yard, so I assumed it was an emergency vet scenario, but it isn't. She needs better food. My boyfriend's mother stopped by while I was gone, which is not uncommon. She told him that the food I had been giving her was terrible and persuaded them to switch to this pricey brand. Not only that, but she began feeding my dog genuine cut-up meat, such as steak or chicken bits in her bowl. Since I've been home, my dog has refused to eat the food she's eaten her entire life. She has even begun to get up on the table when I am making meals in an attempt to obtain the people's food, a habit I broke over a year and a half ago. To say I'm outraged would be an understatement. Because of my financial situation, the $1.40 bag I purchased for her is out of reach. I flipped out after going through a budget cut and a 9.8% increase in property taxes. My boyfriend's mom arrived over and quickly rummaged through her pocketbook, grabbing steak chunks for my dog. I've always been clear that there should be no table scraps. The dog show was the icing on the cake. I flipped. Now I seem wholly insane and have been labeled a mad moron, not the imbecile. As someone who has a dog with severe food allergies, I would be outraged. I spend hundreds of dollars on allergy medicines and am cautious about what my dog eats. So if someone decided it wasn't good enough and modified it without my consent, I'd be outraged. Furthermore, allowing a dog to get away with something you say no to leads them to test the boundaries again. They wrecked your training, which took time and work to develop. Thus, that is not acceptable. If you become pregnant, your mother-in-law will undoubtedly overstep boundaries with your child, like she did with your dog. She appears to be highly dominating and insists on getting her way. She didn't even consider whether the dog enjoyed the food. She believed it was terrible, so the healthy dog needed something better, even if he was perfectly content with his existing meal. Yes, wait until you have children with your mother-in-law. She's a unique person. This is a prospective grandmother who doesn't care what mom wants for the kids, and a father who will do anything his mother wants him to. I am a 34-year-old guy with a tween daughter named Amaya. She is a beautiful child. I met Amaya's mother and tried to get to know her, as her father was not present and did not want to be involved. So on the day of our wedding, I officially adopted her and shocked her, informing her that I was now her father and she was my daughter. Amaya is generally a very busy child, but with the worldwide issue and now summer break, I've seen that she will sit on the couch all day, watching TV and playing computer games. As a result, she is gaining significant weight. Are you enjoying the story so far? Please show your support by liking and subscribing to our channel. Now let's dive back into the story. I discussed it with my wife, but she says Amaya is okay and it's summer so she can watch TV and eat junk food. I understand it, but I don't want Amaya to develop unhealthy habits. So I made the father-daughter stroll to get her moving a little. We spent 30 minutes talking about the day, what was going on, and what we wanted to do. I gradually increased my pace from walking to jogging and ultimately running. Amaya struggled at first, but she is now able to keep up with me. I enjoy it because she gets a bit of exercise every day, and I get to spend time with her. Well, my wife is not pleased. She approached me claiming I fat-shamed our daughter and forced her to exercise as a child. Children are supposed to watch television and eat junk food. She encourages Amaya to binge-watch TV, buys her favorite snacks, and tells her she doesn't need to join me for a run. She accuses me of attempting to impose my living choices on my daughter, which makes me feel embarrassed. After a few arguments, she is considering sending Amaya to stay with her grandparents for the rest of the summer. I'm encouraging her to become more active. Am I the idiot? Not the imbecile. How come you're going for a run and forcing her to adopt healthy habits when her mother is buying her junk food? You did not fat-shame her. Instead, you planned an activity for the two of you to undertake together. And unless you omitted essential details, she enjoys it. So unless she has to be coerced into running with you and despises it, you are not wrong. The best thing you can do for your child is encourage them to live a healthy, active lifestyle. Your wife sucks here. Purposefully loading the house with junk food is a terrible thing to do to a youngster. The child should have access to a variety of nutritious foods. You suck too for making this about weight loss and appearance rather than simply telling your kid to develop healthy behaviors. Making her run seems excessive, especially if she dislikes it. Walking and talking about the day is a better approach for your daughter to understand that exercise isn't about punishing herself for the food she eats. So I vote that everyone is an idiot here. To encourage a child to eat junk food and binge-watch TV is abuse. Of course, consuming junk food and watching television can be essential aspects of childhood. However, this is not a behavior that should be promoted. Physical activity and moving around are vital components of a healthy kid. Unfortunately, your wife is preparing your daughter for lifetime health concerns. Update. Am I an idiot for attempting to assist my daughter in losing weight? First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for their support. I hope you all went for that walk regardless. We sent Amaya to her grandparents for 2 weeks. During that period, my wife and I were able to discuss our feelings openly. My wife informed me that as a child, she was enormous. She was nearly morbidly fat by the time she was a teenager, and her parents were furious about it. They pushed her to diet, kept her out of the house to compel her to exercise, instructed her PE teacher to have her do additional laps, and locked away food so she couldn't consume it. She avoids discussing it. I had no idea what had happened to her. She was in tears, expressing concern that I might do the same to Amaya. I know my wife is enormous, but it has never worried me. I married her because I adore her. She is a beautiful wife and mother, but, like all of us, she allowed her fears to get the best of her. This is why she freaked out when I started taking Amaya running with me. Anyway, following our discussion, we agreed that we could do it all as a family. I purchased bikes for us, downloaded family fitness DVDs, scheduled family lunch times, and went grocery shopping together. So now she joins us on our runs. Do not worry. Amaya and I will drop the pace to a jog so she can keep up. I wish she had revealed this sooner. At the very least, it is now public knowledge. Many people praised my actions with Amaya, describing me as the ideal father. I am not flawless. I understand what it is like not to have a father. When I was 2, my father decided that he no longer wanted to be a father. He packed and went in the middle of the night, leaving only me and Mom. We have yet to hear from him again. He did not call, write, or send child support. I have no idea where he is now, and I don't want to know. My mother worked 2 jobs to support us. We relocated 6 times, and it wasn't easy. I had several guys in my life who served as role models, but I did not have a father. I promised myself that if I ever became a father, I would be the father I wished I had. I recognize a lot of myself in Amaya. That is why I want her to know that I adore her unconditionally. That is why I adopted her. That is why I refer to her as my daughter rather than a stepdaughter. She is my little child, and I want her to know she is always loved and that she may talk to me about anything. These days, children are already having a difficult time. I want her to know that if things get complicated, we can go for a walk and speak about it. I assumed this had to do with your wife's past. Her parents were nasty to her. I believe that treatment would be beneficial for her. You keep. Doing what you do makes you an excellent father and husband. Great update. I understood your wife's reaction. Growing up, my mother wasn't as awful as your wife's parents, but my weight was discussed virtually every day. I was repeatedly encouraged to ride my bike and get out of the home as if there was something wrong with me. As I grew older, it was always the first thing my mother mentioned. Either I looked like I'd lost some weight, or I needed to be cautious. Because I had become, without fail, a topic of conversation, I just reminded myself to be sensitive and never come across in this manner. Your goals are terrific, and you're going about it wonderfully and kindly. Just be sure to always choose family time over workout. You're wonderful. Thank you for being a good father. I am a 44-year-old female who has endured emotional and psychological abuse at the hands of a narcissistic father and has had no protection from a weak, dependent mother. And hearing from dads like you makes me grieve for my inner kid, the tiny me I was, and how my parents' actions influenced my life. Dads are crucial to young girls and boys, and it appears that you are the type of father that many women do not have. Do what you're doing as a father and spouse. You're doing fantastic. I'm a 42-year-old man who is engaged to a 33-year-old woman who is the right one. We've been dating for a little over 3 years, and I proposed last month. Last night, after another round of wedding preparations, my fiancé asked if I was okay with her becoming a stay-at-home wife. At first, I chuckled because I assumed she was joking, but she was serious. Finally, she implored me not to laugh and expressed her desire to be a stay-at-home wife. I asked her why, as we both make good money at our jobs. However, we cannot afford our existing lifestyle on one income. She says it's because I earn a lot more, which is correct. I make almost 40% more than she does so that we could cut back on our expenses. She's been on my mind a lot lately, and working 9 to 5 isn't for me. I asked if she was serious, and she affirmed that she was. I expressed my discomfort with the concept and suggested that if we have children, she could be a stay-at-home mom. But I'm not interested in her being a stay-at-home wife. She accused me of being manipulative because we don't have children. But I just mentioned it as a hypothetical because I'm not comfortable being the primary breadwinner. That escalated into a furious confrontation, with her claiming that I should support her dreams. Even when I asked, she never specified what she intended to accomplish with her time at home. So this is where I might be the idiot. In the heat of the moment, I said, "Where is this coming from? Why is it your dream to be a stay-at-home wife? Is it your dream to be lazy?" She became enraged and went to her mother's house, saying, "We'll talk more when you calm down." Let me be honest, I don't want her to be a stay-at-home wife. I'm not comfortable with being the sole breadwinner, and I don't want to support this fantasy. I want a life companion, not a dependent who spends their days doing nothing productive. Am I the idiot? Not the imbecile. Being a stay-at-home mom is a job, presuming the mother does the childcare and does not delegate all of the labor to a staff of nannies and housekeepers. Being a stay-at-home wife with no plans for childcare is not comparable. If you both agree on something, that's one thing, but you've stated that you're searching for a partner, not a sugar baby. Not the imbecile. What you said may have been a little unkind. Just because she'll be home doesn't imply she wants to be lazy. However, I believe you were pretty close off base. You asked her what she would do in her spare time, and she did not seem to have an answer for you. She claims that's her dream, but she doesn't say what it is. Without defined goals for what she wants to do, your fears are more valid. You do not want to be the exclusive source of money, and that is entirely reasonable. It might be tough to support a family on your own. LOL, encourage her dreams. If my spouse wanted to go back to college, I would help him. If he wanted to establish his own business in an area that he was passionate about, I would assist him. If he had a fantasy of sitting on his buttocks and playing video games while being a stay-at-home husband, he would soon back my dream of divorce. Your values appear to be significantly different from those of your fiancé. You're not an idiot. She is being manipulative, bordering on gaslighting, by alleging that you were manipulative for not fully supporting her aspirations. What kind of bullshit is that? She was not born a trust fund baby or a member of the landed gentry, so I'm not sure where the assumption that she'll find someone to support her comes from. Was her mother a housewife or a mother? Oh, and don't forget she's gone to her mother's. I'm concerned she's not the right person for me and our relationship may end. Thanks for watching. How did you find the story? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more awesome stories like this. Your feedback and support mean a lot.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.